I figure there's been some people asking about book writing, and I'm not the most experienced guy. Rollo's actually done 4 books, but the one thing I am good at is kind of systemizing it. So, case in point here. So here's the draft so far, and here's the stuff I need for research. This is something they don't tell you. It's that technically the time you need to write a book is you take your words per minute you can type, in my case about 100 words a minute. Do it over however many words you want to write. 60,000 to 100,000 is the length of a typical book. Do the math there, and that's generally how long it takes to write a book. So 600 minutes, 60 hours, or 10 hours. So 10 hours, you should be able to write a book, but people obviously know it takes longer than that. So the draft goes pretty easy. There's 4 big sections I want to have. Well, 1 small, 3 big. The first one is expectations. I think it's important because most people promise the moon. You can win over your wife, you can get duck girls, and I think a more realistic expectation walking into this book is going to have a guy get a lot more out of it. Now, I'm saving that until the end, because this is like another thing you want to know from writing books. Always write the beginning last. Like your opening paragraphs, your opening sentence, your opening chapter, your opening page. More often than not, it's going to be influenced by the rest of the book. And so if you save that one till last, you can kind of almost do it as a pre-summary, like say what you're going to say. That's just something I found, because I tried writing the first chapter on my first book, and by the 3rd draft, I had to rewrite it like 4 times. So I'm just like, you know what? I'll save it to the end. The old one done by Blue Pill Professor, and before that, Athol K was built. Athol K's was just built on like 12 rules for life. Get attractive, stop getting unattractive. He kind of take a PUA response to it, which worked well enough. The problem is it was very simple, very basic. Then Blue Pill Professor did one. He did it 12 steps. He liked structuring it like an AA program, which it was okay. The problem is most of the steps at near the end, as soon as you started getting into active dread, were kind of hand wavy. They meld together. Like, what's the difference between setting up a divorce, opening up the relationship, or cheating? It's like, at that point, you're kind of already at the end of your journey anyway. Why do we need 5 more steps for that? And then a method me and a marketing guy, well, mostly the marketing guy had talked about, Jack Tennehart's, was a 3-pronged approach: getting out of her frame, building a frame, and then pulling her into your frame. Yeah, I find the middle structure, it works best at first, because then you're really getting into the meat of it. And then as you finish that, it makes it easier to summarize once you have everything in front of you, to summarize and introduce once you get the middle done. Somebody went through the giant undertaking of essentially listing them all. So it's good, because these are conversations we had like years ago, and it's nice to have something to quickly go back to and see it. Now, let me see here. So there's a lot of the stuff I can remember from field reports, which I've been using, and I will be using a lot of these things. This is a nice explanation of outcome independence. Like, for example, does this work? Yes. So what do we got here? Guy's been married 4 years. He's on his 2nd marriage. 1 kid. He's 41 and his wife is 40. This is usually where they give, and you guys are going to notice, this is, anybody who's in Patreon going to see exactly how people write field reports. They're going to look very similar. So he said what he did: stoicism, sidebar material, blah, blah, blah. This stuff's not really important. So he's using things in his order. This is all like, this has been good, this has been good. I kind of like it in that, like, the old field reports from like the more interested audience, they were very matter of fact and less LARPy, so it's nice. So in this case, he knows what his issue is. It's outcome independence. Sex a couple times with want, occasional blowjob, lots and lots of shit testing regardless. Talking about his problem here. He used to get pissy when his wife shot him down. Eventually he'd get duty sex to kind of keep it going. Essentially how like dead bedrooms start. They always trickle down. It never just cuts off one day, right? Anyways, so now that he started doing a lot of the red pilled stuff, you know, enforcing boundaries, being more assertive, working on his attractiveness, it's gone up to weekly, which is great. Sex God method, he's adding that stuff. But you see what I mean? Like, he's literally going through, what have you done? What do you want? What are you trying? I kind of like these ones. I think this one actually might be in my research for the outcome independence part. I'll have to double check though. If not, I might as well save another copy of it though. Anyways. Oh, there was the problem. Yeah, so that's the outcome independence. There's the hard nose. This is kind of early on. So if you guys don't know, in, I think it's Married Man Sex Life Primer, they talk about a sex moratorium. Take a couple weeks off, no initiating, none of that stuff. The idea being a lot of wives get pissed off that a guy keeps petitioning for sex. They don't like it. And that means every sign of affection you give is automatically like, oh, he's just trying to sleep with me. It ends up causing a very toxic environment. The sex moratorium is kind of a way of resetting that. In the last couple years, we've kind of seen that to be less than useful as a technique or a system or a strategy, however you want to refer to it. So in the end, we just like keep it simple, initiate, get better at initiating. If you don't want to initiate, don't initiate. That little resentment issue, it's too far into a girl's frame and you're basically putting your behaviors on the result of her emotional state and it just doesn't work. Second question, wife works but wants to stay home with the kid for the next year or so. So this one's a common one too. And I haven't, actually now that I'm kind of thinking about it, there's something I want to add into there about that. About the dual working family thing here. Because I think that's going to be, wants the wife to stay, or she wants to stay at home, work with the kid for the next year or so. Now this is a common one. Every time you see this, it's played out the same way. The wife says she wants to take care of the kid, take a year off from work. And then as soon as that happens, she just refuses to go back. And then the guy's kind of trapped. So there's actually a nice, oh, damn it. I wish I could find it. It's going to be impossible to find, but there was an old Altmate CAD one where his wife did that to him as part of his like cucking situation. If you guys don't know, he's kind of a famous poster. He's kind of one of the more hardcore guys. His wife, now he never knew for sure if she cheated on him or not, but she put him in a position where it was like, you know what? The fact that she even puts me in this position, I'm just going to assume it's the case. And worked his ass off, got himself in shape, kind of went hard, basically opened up the relationship. He demoted his wife to plate, but he didn't divorce her because he still wanted to be part of his kid's life. He didn't want to get divorced, at least not on her terms. He wanted to do it on his own terms. So this one came up often where the girl decides that, oh, I just need to take a year off so we can take care of the kid. And then they're just done. And a lot of guys feel trapped, like what they can do about that. To which he's got the roadmap. But that's the problem, is that a lot of guys see that and it worked, but they don't want to do it because, again, validation seeking. And this is why I'm always so hard on relationship guys that do any amount of appeasement or what's the word I'm looking for? Placation of their wives. Because it's like they start seeing that. And I know the way you usually word it is if they see any weakness, they'll just drive a truck right through it. But it's essentially that. Like, if you don't hold these boundaries early on, they're going to run roughshod over them. But you see what I mean here? Like, yeah, and we have a good nanny. Kid is happy, doing great. We both have good work schedules. Everybody's happy. Everybody's productive. The girl's having maybe a hard day at work and wants to take a year off. Now she wants to be a stay-at-home mom. I've just never seen it work out well. And it's kind of like you need a working wife in the home at the very least to stave off boredom. Now everybody argues this point, which, you know, you're more than welcome to. I'm just seeing it play out way too many times to be on board with even the best arguments. Because I find objective reality tends to work the best for me. Did it work for you? Great. Can you give a guy a list of items that exemplify how to get done in their life? Probably not. So it's not very useful. Something else too, which is interesting to see in these ones, which it's going to kind of tailor how much editing I have to do to the field reports. So Sorcerer King, he's one of the older mods. I think he was the one that first flared me. Like, that's how old school he was. Anyways, thanks for your reply or detail. Regrettably, your whole story is about your wife. This is the key to you not developing OI. You're being a better you, but in her frame. See what I mean when I say, guys? Like, so he describes this whole story about outcome independence, but he can't even tell it from his own story. So that's kind of a neat side thing. So in this case, you know, Married Man Sex Life Primer, they advise initiate sex all the time because what do you have to lose? Ideally, your sex life provides a nice barometer for your changes. You get your shit together, you hit the gym, your wife's response with positive changes, you get rejected 80% of the time, then 70, then 60. Now this, I find this works not just for the marrieds, but for single guys too. In fact, when I was still taking on clients, this is always what I would suggest. They're like, well, I want to get Tinder photos taken. I want to start doing date game and online dating, but I want to wait until I get to 15% body fat first or 10% body fat. I'm like, no, you do it now. Because, yeah, you're probably going to get rejected a whole lot more, but not as much as you think. And I can tell you all day that being attractive will make, you know, your lamer jokes seem funnier, or your ham-fisted pickup lines work better. But until you see it for yourself, you're never going to believe it. And so a guy who's developing his game as some fat schlub is going to know, is going to notice those same things work as he gets older or as he gets thinner. And then he'll finally start to see it for himself. But the only way to get there is to like basically set yourself up for rejection. All right, so this one here is mostly about the be attractive side of things. Talks about types. What I like about Jack too, it's not so much whether he's right or wrong on these ones, but it's that he gets you to think about the problem in a very unique way. So it's kind of nice. So what he's suggesting here is to stop using the frequency of sex as an objective measure of improvement, because it still allows you to operate in your wife's frame, but it's just a shitty metric in this guy's case. So it's a good point for outcome independence. Now, while the field report belongs in getting out of her frame on the game section, this kind of advice is how you would, and this is where the tricky part comes in writing the book. The advice here is about throwing away that scoreboard, which comes with building a frame. That's the other thing. So most guys, when they don't have a frame and they have to get out of their wife's frame, keeping score is one of the ways you can see it happening. How many times you had sex, who's doing more of the chores, like all those little, like, what's being fair, what's being real. Okay, dude, I get it. Yeah, so the first thing you got to do is learn to throw out the scoreboard. You don't give a crap who's fair. You don't care that you're putting in the majority of the work or any of that stuff. You just have to get it out of your head that you're keeping score, which is something usually it's good to have roommates when you're in college, by the way, so you learn about this stuff. So like he's saying, it's a shitty metric. Now he's not saying just withdrawal completely or withdrawal at all. Spend time, be a good father. Spend time with your wife if you want to. And then here's the switch. This is like his take on the gym bag routine. Kid's asleep. I'm bored at home with my wife on an even eating. It's rare. Let's go smash. Just take advantage of the opportunities as they come up and stop worrying about a scoreboard. And then the success metrics there become things he can change. His fitness, his game. And he brings up some hypotheticals that the girl would do here. I generally don't like when Jack does this because I don't like when anybody does that. Like, one of the worst things you can see for a guy who has no frame is he starts building up these convoluted conversations with him and his wife and basically planning everything as it goes on his head. The one thing about that, though, is it's never right. And then he goes over the process of calibration here. What times if you pull away and withdrawal too soon? It seems too abrupt, too artificial. He's essentially showing a guy how to be, training him to be social when he's autistic. I think that's how Jack always described his thing. He says, I'm autistic and I had to learn to be social the hard way. Like, he doesn't have those regular empathic things. So that's why I kind of like his postings too. There's another comment. Actually, you know what? I probably should do a video on this one. Shitty comfort tests. This is something that nobody in the Red Pill talks about, but it's actually fairly common. If you guys don't know, comfort tests are the opposite of shit test or fitness test. So a comfort test, for example, is where a girl is concerned that she's losing the beta side of the equation. A shit test is alpha. Oh, I got desire. Is this real or is it a fake signal? Let's throw out a shit test to see if it works. Comfort tests are, he's not giving me any comfort. I'm going to throw out this comfort test to basically say, I need comfort. Is he going to provide it or not? Shitty comfort tests are in the same way that guys can be cringe or creepy. Girls can have shitty comfort tests. It's which they want comfort from their man, but they don't know how to approach the subject. And it generally ruins things. He brings up a section here on vision, which I like about vision. I wouldn't say family vision. I would say your vision. Again, we're quibbling over semantics here. But the key point, and I like this, is where he talks about not compromising on vision. So for example, and that's boundaries. Boundaries and frame for the most part. So when he talks about vision here, I like referring to it as frame. Put it up above so I got reference. Now, generally what I find is useful now. So once I get to the point in the book where I start talking about, where'd it go? Getting out of her frame. What do I got here? Anger phase, the first part of frame, boundary enforcement. I'm most likely going to add a section then on... All right. So I don't know what I'm going to call it. Either outcome independence, maybe the scoreboard. We will set this one up, do a window. Oh, there it is. Let's go back to the outcome independence section, which is going to help me writing it out, because then I kind of see examples of this. I have a few more examples, so I'm just showing a sample of this one here. I don't know why, but that makes me laugh so much. There it is. That's science for you. All right, so ignoring the scoreboard. So I'm going to go through this. And this is another good thing I like doing. So when I read, I usually start with, go through the last 1,000 words of what I just wrote, and then I'll kind of clean it up and then write another 1,000 and then repeat that cycle. So I kind of get into the same headspace I was beforehand and then can expand on it. So in this case, all right, buddy, here, I like you, but I need some space. I got work to do. You guys try doing that with a 200-pound Dane. I dare you. If you are writing anything, script, screenplay, book, and you're using like Word, stop. It's absolutely ridiculous. This program is called Scrivener, and once you use it, you can't go back. It's absolutely wonderful, and I didn't realize how useful it was until I got it. The only thing I don't like about it is it's... Okay, so outcome independence, there's a few points I want to cover in this. I don't even know if it's going to be a chapter yet, but it's sectioned. The scoreboard. Step 1. Stop keeping score. All right. Yeah, stop keeping score or throw away the scoreboard. Step 2 is to... Oh, no, wait. Scoreboard, throwing it away is step 2. Step 1 is to... Oh, for crying out loud. Stop keeping scoreboard. Throw away scoreboard. I know it seems like the same thing, but it's actually different, because stop keeping score is going to be way about ignoring tit for tat. But tit for tat as a strategy is something you kind of want to use too, just not in the case that's going to matter for scoreboard. So I need to add a section in there. And you can see how I'm kind of building up the outline, where I think about these in broad topics, and then what would I say if I don't understand what I'm talking about. So in this case, what kind of strategies do you want to use it for? It's the why. In this case, when you're doing outcome independence, the purpose why is because it is a solid, is a solid way to manifest or to kill covert contracts. And then it is throw in a couple points, like what is it I want to talk about with covert contracts. So it's a solid way to kill covert contracts. The scoreboard is technically fuel for it. That's kind of the point, the beats I want to hit for this. As well as the cycle of resentment, which, I mean, that's what a covert contract is basically about, but I want to give it its own section in here because I think it's really good to hammer this point home. So step 1 is stop keeping score. That means no more tit for tat strategies. And then talk about strategy of morning resets. I got to look up the name for it. I don't remember what it's called. In this case, it's when you do morning resets, what that means is you hit on your wife, you get shot down, you don't get shot down, you have a big fight, you don't have a fight, whatever happens, you treat every morning at 0. And this is about stop keeping score. So you could have like a horrible fight the night before. She could have said, no, I don't want to touch you, blah, blah, blah. Next morning, none of that happened. It's a complete memory of a goldfish. So we get on the memory of a goldfish section there. Tit for tat is a bad strategy. Add the results. So then you got morning strategy ones. Then you got, I don't want to put chore play in here, but I'm going to maybe add a note about chore play, how it adds up. In this case, chore play is like the ultimate scoreboard. It's technically a female strategy that does this, but This is in the first section where it's about getting out of your wife's frame, so it actually might work there. Anyways, I'm going to put like a big note on that, so when I come back, I definitely don't treat that as sacrosanct. Scoreboard is beta. Yeah, scoreboard isn't beta though. Beta is comfort. Scoreboard is, I would argue it's more of an omega thing, but I know that's like some kind of cringy language. I agree with no scoreboard, but any risk in her seeing you as more of a doormat. See, that's the thing. You're bringing up the point here, and that's why this is important. If you are talking about the scoreboard, that's the first thought of somebody who doesn't have frame. Well, won't she see me as a doormat? Part of building frame is being aware of, but unconcerned what effects your actions are going to have on people. Like, obviously, you know, if you start, you know, I was going to say a pretty bad reference, but I'm like going to skip that one. Obviously, you know, you cheat on a wife, it's going to have an effect. Is she going to leave you? Is she going to just want you to have more discretion and put up with it? Is she going to cry? Is she going to get vindictive? You can guess, and most guys do guess. And most guys guess wrong, because say what you want about guys trying to look into the future, but the one thing I can say for sure is whatever you think is going to happen, the only thing you can know for sure is that you're wrong. But here's the thing. But you see how it's framed there? And this is kind of the part of frame that's very hard to articulate. And that's why it's going to be like a whole book for me to get like, and that's frame. 100,000 words later. But yeah, will she see you as more of a doormat? Well, maybe. Maybe she won't. Maybe she will. That all depends. Again,